Happy Monday, troops. Allincrypto here, and welcome back, guys, for another jam-packed daily market update. We are going to kick this one off by taking a look at CoinShares' weekly fund flow report. Like we like to do every Monday, it gives us a kind of inkling in regards to what kind of interest we're seeing in the ETPs over in Europe, the ETNs in the UK, and the ETFs in America. And I believe we're going to see altcoin ETFs based on my own intelligence, and we speak to many ETF issuers. I believe we are going to see September for more broad regulatory approval of the ETF basket. So we're going to be starting the video off there. We're going to talk about Ethereum Whales and what they're doing. This is likely, in my opinion, the crypto strategy companies or the ETH strategy companies that are stepping in. We're going to be looking at a report from the UK Centre for Blockchain Technologies. Now, the interesting thing about this is it reveals since 2000 to 2004, the likes of HSBC, JP Morgan Chase and Goldman Sachs are backing firms and launching their own solutions. So we will be taking a look at some breakdowns from this. Your futures market is actually slightly up today on the NQA, ESA and DMA, which means there might be a bounce. We had a jam-packed week of economic data, whether that was the earnings. We've got, I think, the likes of Palantir. We've also got earnings this week, but we've got a lot less economic data. I think the most significant one I'm looking at is the BOE, the Bank of England's rate cut on Thursday. So good news if you've got a mortgage, certainly if it's on a floating rate. So I think we could see a bounce this week. We'll maybe look a little bit at the S&P, put it into context. I think I think the rallies we've seen for the markets have been very hated on the back end of Trump, on the back end of the tariff reinflation of the markets, so on and so forth. But you guys know that I'm bullish on Bitcoin. We'll look at the smaller patterns that we have for it, being the two bull flags, both pointing towards about 130k, and that fits in with a broader trajectory of this space. Then I've got some really interesting news for you guys. We're going to be talking about Coinbase's banned ad in the UK, and this has sparked a major discussion, one of which is from former UK Chancellor Osborne, who's warning the UK is losing in the global crypto race. Crypto is a matter of national security, a matter of national sovereignty, a matter of national monetary sovereignty, certainly, as we're seeing the democratization of the dollar through technologies like stablecoins. And so I'm an employee. I employ people, right, to do what we do here. There's nothing stopping me from paying my employees in dollars. There's nothing stopping me from receiving dollars and actually circumventing through stablecoins and direct implementation of them the fees that I incur through payment providers. And then if a country, and some countries will do this, ones with stronger monetary currencies won't. If a country decides they want to dollarize, they literally can with stablecoins. And I think it's a matter of national sovereignty that this technology is embraced. We'll also talk a little bit about the FCA, and then we'll do a little bit of TA. So a lot to get into, guys. As always, let's break it all down. So to kick things off, we like to look at these every single week. It gives us a good idea of what institutional flows are doing. This is the Digital Asset Fund Flows Weekly Report. Profit taking and hawkish signals trigger first weekly outflows in 15 weeks. I think I always see like records getting shattered. The thing that I always think is, oh, well, great, what comes next? We're going to continue to shatter those records, or are we going to see an easing off? So actually, I don't mind a down week in flows because it kind of means that it can get better. And I always like to work from that. And it was going to happen at some point. 15 weeks of consecutive inflows. It says digital asset investment products saw 223 million in outflows, reversing early week inflows of 883 million. Likely a reaction to the hawkish Fed signals and stronger than expected US economic data. Stronger than expected. I don't think it was stronger. I think actually it was pretty horrific, the non-farm payroll. The revisions are some of the worst we've had in a long time. There was also, in regards to Wednesday, just some comments. For the first time, I think in about 3 decades, you had 2 Fed members that went against the consensus and thought they should lower interest rates. So there's a lot of uncertainty. could perhaps be people taking that risk off the table. I think that's what you've seen with the S&P, but just like what we saw on the initial tariff announcements, the reality is life goes on, and I think that's a very simple way to put it. And so do the markets. Bitcoin led the outflows with 404 million, though year-to-date inflows remain strong at 20 billion, wow, reflecting its high sensitivity to monetary policy. Ethereum posted the 15th week of inflows at $133 million, while XRP, Solana, and Sai also attracted notable inflows. And you can see here, Ethereum still rocking and rolling with the inflows. Multi-asset saw minor outflows. Solana saw minor inflows. XRP really was the star of the show outside of Ethereum. And I think XRP is I've been riffing a lot of where XRP can go. You know, you see these big, crazy price predictions for XRP. And they could come to fruition. So our price prediction is $19.27 based on a technical pattern. But I think that's lowballing it in terms of where it could get to. You know, the value of a network like Bitcoin is the value that it can attract. The value of Bitcoin that Bitcoin can kind of take from the world. Well, the thing is with XRP, it's gone, okay, we'll use this DLT technology. But instead of using it to send Bitcoins and to enable a kind of Bitcoin system, we're going to enable it to use to enable the monetary system. And the value that the network can attract is larger than Bitcoin, in my opinion, if it's successful. Anyway, that's for another video. But XRP was the real star of the show, Solana, and then Sai. Very interestingly. But this is good news. Also, Aave and Sui saw minor inflows. Sweet. It's interesting. This is from Crypto Goose. This is Ethereum mega whale addresses. And there's very heavy accumulation. Very tied in with the price action that we've seen. It's not long, ladies and gentlemen, until Ethereum finds that hatch in the ceiling and goes through the ceiling door and starts to embark on higher price action. And I've actually taken some positions in Ethereum strategy companies to kind of benefit from that. If you want to unlock those, do consider becoming a patron. It's a recent pivot we've made. We've also took some other strategy companies. There was an interesting report on the topic of institutional interest. This time also, I guess, linked through investing. This is a new report released, How Traditional Finance is Investing in Blockchain. Now, the UK Centre for Blockchain Technologies, some of the board members of this are ex-Hedera. The only sort of, let's show you the partners that these guys have. I've looked into these previously. These, I think, are ex-Hedera members, Hedera board members. But the partners are Ripple, Hedera, and that's really somewhat it. But they released this report on Friday, I think it was. And it says, UK Centre for Blockchain Technology in partnership with Ripple and CB Insights has released a new report titled Banking on Digital Assets, How Traditional Finance is Investing in Blockchain. The report provides a comprehensive look at how banks worldwide are engaging with blockchain technologies and digital assets. The research covers investment trends between 2020 and 2024, revealing that banks participated in 345 investments in blockchain companies during that period. These investments span areas such as tokenization, custody services, digital asset payments, and institutional infrastructure. The report also highlighted the growing role of stablecoins and forecast tokenized assets to exceed 18 trillion in value by 2033. There's lots of different variations. It talks about one key takeaway is increased involvement of global systemically important banks, G-CIBs, in blockchain innovation. Institutions like HSBC, JP Morgan Chase, and Goldman Sachs are backing blockchain firms and launching their own solutions. Very telling indeed. I'm hoping I can do something with the UK Centre for Blockchain Technologies, certainly as they are or partnered with a university in one of my hometowns. So very interesting. I spoke to you a little bit about the futures market. There was some drama going into this week. I think you're going to see it's great. I think you're going to see a bounce, kind of having the bad news out the way of. But we shall see how the markets open. If futures anything to go by, we might have a bit of a positive day. Let's talk about Coinbase and the UK banning their ad, which I thought was fantastic and true and accurate. I'm not going to play the ad because I don't want any kind of backlash from it, but Coinbase's UK musical ad hits a nerve, sparking debates from crypto fans to founders. Now, if you want to watch the ad, go and type it in on Twitter. Obviously, there's copyrighted music on there, so we couldn't play it anyway. It says, American crypto firm Coinbase dropped a musical advert last week which criticised the UK. I think more so showed the reality. The ad has divided opinions, winning praises from some VCs and those in fintech industries, while others describe it as tone deaf. Okay. Coinbase denied that the ad was a direct criticism of the centre-left Labour government. This is Brian Armstrong's reaction. He says, our ad, which got banned in the UK by the TV networks, has sparked quite a reaction. If you can't say it, then there must be a kernel of truth in it. And I think so. Needing to update the system and improve society is not a political statement on either party in the UK. Some have tried to turn it into this, and it's not specific to the UK. We ran ads with similar themes in the US. It's a statement about how the traditional system is not working for people and how crypto represents a way to improve that. There are people in the UK who still think of crypto as some kind of gambling product, a very outdated view, just wrong view indeed. I mean, it has been used for that and speculation, but we're coming out of that now and have completely missed the potential of crypto, which is to update and improve the financial system for the benefit of everyone. We welcome the attacks and any other attempts to censor this message, as it just helps spread it. Amen. And I agree. So the reason I talk about investing is because it essentially stops you from climbing up a greased pole that is fiat proliferation and monetary systems. The issue that we've had and why things have got consistently worse from a standard of living point of view, why we've gone from one father, male, providing for his wife and their kids and being able to go on some holidays and things like this, is because what we've seen is a continued monetary increase and wages haven't gone up with that. Your earnings haven't adjusted to the monetary supply. Your money hasn't either. And that's why people that bought houses, things like this, they've essentially hedged their bets and been able to do well working with that system, not against it. Correct? I guess monetary education. And that's kind of what Coinbase was showing in this advert. So I thought it was very tasteful. It was very accurate. I don't know why they censored it, really. Interestingly, talking about the UK, former UK Chancellor Osborne warns the UK is losing its global crypto race. In this post, former UK Chancellor and British Finance Minister George Osborne warned that the country was losing crypto ground to rivals in the global race. Osborne criticised the Labour government for its cautious approach to crypto, pointing out that the US, the UAE and Asia were seizing the opportunity. The founder of ByteTree, Charlie Morris, said the FCA had taken an understandable cautious approach to Bitcoin's volatile past. Osborne urged Chancellor Rachel Reeves and the BOE, the BOE are piloting crypto, by the way, Governor Andrew Bailey, to steer Britain out of the slow lane. He asked Rachel Reeves to set up a stablecoin framework, adding that it was time to catch up. The former Tory Chancellor claimed that the UK had become the world's financial centre because it was not afraid of change, but now it was becoming too risk adverse, especially regarding crypto regulations and adoption. However, Osborne emphasised that putting all the blame on regulators for being overly cautious was a lame excuse. Now serving as Coinbase advisor counsel, coincidentally, he said Reeves should follow the US's Congress example of including a crypto framework in the country's laws. Osborne mentioned that the EU, Abu Dhabi and the US and Hong Kong were stealing the crypto thunder from Britain. However, Reeves promised in April to make Britain the best place for crypto innovation. She said this would increase investors' confidence and support the country's fintech growth. I really struggled to get any kind of banking being a crypto company. There was literally only one bank that I have to pay a hell of a lot of money to essentially have that bank facilitated because of the hoops they have to jump through to accommodate for a crypto company, even though we don't hold crypto or we don't deal in crypto. Just because we had crypto in our name, as a company, pretty much all major banks turned me down and didn't give me much of a reason other than we're not touching it, mate. So I'd like to see that shift. Whether we will or not, we'll see. The FCA has lifted the ban that prevented retail investors from acquiring ETNs, which is our ETF equivalent. So there is a little bit of movement. Technically, when it comes to Bitcoin, to a lot of drama covered. You guys know the plan from a more broad technical perspective, a weekly chart. On the smaller time frames, I'm more bullish than I am bearish despite all the sort of macro volatility. I think this is a bull flag, just like the one that set up previously, and both of these are going to run you into the sort of 130k zone, high 130k zone. I think this is going to play out. And I think what we're likely going to see is a bit of a recovery today on the back end of Friday's sell-off. However, we shall see. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it from me. All is A-OK. All is good in the hood when it comes to crypto. Let me know your thoughts on all of this, and I'll see you all in the next one.